So you're ready to get where are you actually from? I don't
Yeah,
Florida?
so I no, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Um, moved around a ton, which is where I know you from Jersey.
Okay.
Um, we met briefly. That's how we know each other. You probably don't remember through JSS.
For,
But
how
I
long ago was
used
that?
so let's see, that would have been I moved there in 2016. I worked at when it was Workout World.
Oh, you worked in the what was that? The Tinton Falls one?
Mhm.
Okay, so you were probably there when I first started my
Yep.
workout journey. I think I started there when I was probably in 2013 when I was like 18 years old.
Yep. I was the head trainer there for a minute.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. And I knew Teague because I was married to someone in the Navy. So
Oh, okay.
that's why yeah, so that's the connection.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, no, it was cool. It was cool that you reached out because I wasn't I mean, I have that little form. It's probably way easier to just DM me. It seems so much cooler when I have people fill out a form. So when I got you,
Hey,
I
yeah.
got that like email notification. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool too because I saw, you have a lot of guys, so it'll be good to have a female perspective. And truly like whatever you want to chat about, I'm down for.
I mean,
I'm
we're already
pretty up.
rolling. We can.
Yeah.
I could just start the podcast already. Um,
Okay.
yeah, no, I mean, I definitely had a lot of guy guests come on. I think they were more inclined
Yeah.
to come on at first, but I've welcomed girls before. I recorded an episode with a girl over the weekend. Unfortunately, my system failed me, so I have to redo it.
Oh,
But
oh no.
it happens. No, she was cool about it. So, but what kind of got you into fitness?
So I was a competitive gymnast my entire life. And
Okay.
when I say entire life, I mean I started at 2
Oh wow.
and I finished, I think I was 17. So my junior year of high school. I got pretty injured a couple of times that year and I wanted to be able to walk later in life.
Hmm.
Um, so I stopped doing gymnastics then and then I switched into track and I did some cheerleading. But really, throughout gymnastics, I was always, we were doing really tough conditioning. I mean, it was like
Hmm.
5-hour practices. You're talking, very extensive training.
Oh wow.
Back in that day, it was like they didn't care whose feelings they hurt. It was
Hmm.
tough, where my hands are bleeding and my coach is pouring rubbing alcohol on them, like that kind of
That's
training.
nuts. I didn't
Yeah,
know that much I knew gymnastics was like it's a very tough sport. I knew that. I didn't know you would
yeah.
practice for like 5 hours at that young of an age.
It was crazy. I mean, my mom just reminded me of this the other day. We had a rotation at practice where we would do our homework.
Hmm.
So it was just that it was that intense, we're 5 days a week of practice and then weekends were at meets wherever. It could have been I was in Washington State one time, I was in
Hmm.
Wisconsin. I mean, everywhere. So it took up a lot of my life for sure. But really, I was into sports at a young age, but I would say probably fitness in general. My grandfather was big into bodybuilding and
Hmm.
powerlifting. And so he had me in the gym from the age of 12.
Oh wow.
He'd take me in like the YMCA,
Hmm.
where I technically wasn't allowed
Yeah.
to be lifting weights at that age. But yeah, he had me in there since then. So it started from a pretty young age.
Oh, that's awesome. And like, so you did gymnastics for a while, I guess, and like that set the foundation for like this fitness journey that you kind of went on after that, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what really started that was after I quit, it was
Mm,
such a shock to my system because I mean, I went for so long of being in such a highly, not only competitive, but physically, tumultuous situation to
hmm.
not having anything at all. And then I went to college, I went to WVU, and that was like,
Okay.
crap, I really need to do something.
Hmm.
I need to get in the gym here. I need to really start working out again because I didn't have a competitive outlet and I also didn't really have anything to work out for.
Hmm.
Um, so that was kind of what started me in the gym at that point. Sorry, I have
And
a husky, so he is um he's gonna be crying in the background if I don't
No,
give him what he wants.
no problem. But so how long into the fitness journey did you decide to compete? Because I know you mentioned to me when we briefly talked that you competed a few times as well.
Yeah, so my first show was in 2015. So I was still in college, but I think really what it was, I wanted something to work towards.
Hmm.
And that was when Instagram was a thing before then, but Instagram was very still new, and it was like everybody posting their fitness journey. It was,
Hmm.
a lot of that going on. It's still that, but it was like very new and it was everywhere. That
Yep.
was when influencing was just first starting and things like that. And so I really I started to follow a coach on there, and she was a bodybuilding coach. Well, she was a coach, but she was also competing at the time. And I kind of just decided, hey, this looks like something I want to do. The bikini is sparkly, it looks fun.
Hmm.
We all know better than that though, who've competed. It's not fun at all. But
Yeah.
it's I really wanted something to work towards. So I decided to compete, and obviously, not having a ton of muscle mass on me at the age of 20,
Hmm.
bikini was my natural choice and division. So I started working with a coach, and I worked out through college. I was carrying all my meals to all my classes with me. I was that kid in the
Hmm.
back of the class with the gallon jug that everybody made fun of.
Yep.
But really, it just it fueled my competitiveness, and that was what I loved so much about it.
Yeah, I can imagine going from such a competitive environment in gymnastics. You were traveling all over the place, and then all of a sudden stopping that. It's like you need somewhere to put all that energy that because without that, it's like probably like almost like a little bit of an emptiness. Um,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
how many shows did you do with competing?
So I did two shows. I always did the NPC Natural. It was in Cleveland, the Lakeland.
Okay.
Well, it was in Lakeland the first time, but then it was downtown Cleveland the second time. Because my coach was made sure that it was slow and steady. I wasn't doing too many shows back to back to back. We had enough time to have an off season where I was actually making some progress. My first show, I got third place, which I was happy with. I mean, I
Hmm.
didn't know what I was doing. Top five is awesome for your first show.
Definitely,
Look,
I would say
you
so.
know, looking back, I'm like, the posing was so different, and the expectations were so different
Hmm.
because it was still such a new sport. Um, I mean, even in 2015, it wasn't super big. So it was a good learning experience. You kind of learn what you need to grow on during the off season. And then we took a full year off. So I
Hmm.
took an entire year off, and then my preps were normally around, between 20 and 22 weeks ish, which is a pretty long prep.
That's definitely a long. Usually, you see people sit around like 12 to 16 weeks, depending. But
Yeah.
I like the idea of doing it a little bit longer because I feel like it's a little bit less harsh. You kind of ease into it a bit.
Exactly, exactly. And being female too, it's so different than you
Hmm.
guys. Like, we have to be really careful hormonally on
Yeah.
how quickly we cut weight. So that was one thing I was really grateful for, to have, a coach that was pretty mindful of that. And then
Hmm.
also, it was pretty healthy. I was still eating a good amount of carbs. I would say I never dipped below 100 grams in a
That's.
prep.
Hmm.
So it was, and doing it slow and steady really allowed for me to still continue to, be able to have food that long.
Hmm.
So
And then, so from that point, after competing a couple times, what did you kind of know you wanted to follow like a career path with fitness?
so no. I think, I mean, yes and no.
Hmm.
So I never really thought that I could, because you go to college, you want a big girl job, or a big
Hmm.
job, and want to make money doing something that you don't really like doing that much, because that's what you think makes all the
That's what
money.
you're supposed to do, is like
That's
what
what you're
everyone says.
supposed to
Yeah.
do. Right. So there's, I guess, two avenues here. One being, I stopped competing because, I first of all, I'm a perfectionist.
Hmm.
And so I think there's a fine line between, being a healthy competitor and knowing when you're kind of taking it too far and it's maybe a little bit unhealthy. I
Hmm.
don't necessarily think competing in bodybuilding is it's not healthy. Like you can't be healthy.
Hmm.
You have to be competitive in the way that you're okay with being unhealthy and wrecking your hormones and doing all of those things for the sake of the sport. That's what you do.
Definitely.
Um, so my last show I competed in 2016, 3 weeks before my show day. I was actually engaged and he passed away.
Okay.
Like 3 weeks out.
Hmm.
So needless to say, I was like, well, I have to still compete. I can't not compete. That's literally what my brain told me at that moment. That's
Hmm.
crazy. The first person I called was my coach, and I said, I'm still competing. And she was like,
Wow.
are you sure?
Hmm.
You want to think about it? I'm like, no, I didn't just waste 21 weeks of my life and my time and, all of these moments that we could have been doing other things together, but instead I was in the gym.
Hmm.
I can't take that back now. So I got on stage and I got second to the overall winner, which was cool. But after stepping away from that experience, I was like, all of this for a plastic trophy that
Hmm.
what am I going to do? I'm going to put it in my house. I'm going to say, I did this thing, but in the process lost somebody very close to me. And it kind of just put things in perspective a little bit. Um, and so now I eat the dang pizza,
Hmm.
um, and practice, I guess some just I clean eat during the week and I do what I want on the weekend. And it's just a much more sustainable,
Much more
like life.
sustainable, probably balanced lifestyle, more fulfilling
Yeah,
that you can like do other things.
exactly. But circling back to your question, like throughout that experience, I really learned a lot about wellness as
Hmm.
opposed and not the division wellness, but like wellness in life. And that encompasses everything, your mental, your physical, everything. And so I started to really gravitate towards coaching wellness as opposed to weight loss
Hmm.
or as opposed to just coaching somebody for a show or hey, I have this wedding, I need to lose 30 pounds by X date. Like, no, let's like take a look at your whole life and figure out what's
Hmm.
going on that you got to this point where you're so uncomfortable. So really, I did want, to do something like that, but I ended up getting into the marketing world after I left workout world.
Hmm.
I actually was, well, I was when I was the trainer there, I met some people and I networked myself into a marketing position. And so I started doing that there. And, from there on, I was in the marketing world and that's what I was doing. And I liked it. I was building relationships, but, it wasn't fulfilling. I was
Hmm.
sitting at a desk all day. I wasn't really able to get to the gym as much as I wanted to. And so the blessing in disguise, I guess, was that COVID happened and I got laid off from Topgolf. I was their marketing manager.
Okay.
And so when I got laid off, I had a ton of time on my hands to really think about, hey, when I go back to work, what do I want to do?
Hmm.
What is fulfilling? Because obviously this can be taken away at any moment. So what is it that I want to focus my energy on? And so I actually went back to school I got a life coaching certification. It was a 6 week program. It was actually, and when I say life coaching, people kind of roll their eyes at me.
Hmm.
But it was the most life changing experience I've ever had. It changed the way that I talk to people. It changed my relationships. It taught me how to listen, which was, it's something that people think that they know how to do, but really intently listening is not a
Hmm.
skill that most people have.
It's definitely hard to do.
Yeah.
Like,
And, how to ask questions and how to really get people to open up. And, I felt like I was kind of the person that everyone kind of gravitated to for advice anyway. Not that life coaching is advice at all. It's actually
hmm.
not. It's the complete opposite of that. But I always had friends coming to me and kind of like opening up to me, and random people would tell me their life story. And so I would be like, okay, I can do something with this,
So
if
people kind of
I'm
found comfort in you almost.
yeah. So if I'm able to be this, they're comfortable with me to kind of open up, then I can use this in my personal training business. Because I'm sure when you work out with people, you talk about life, you talk
Hmm.
about problems, you talk about things going on. And I'm sorry, I knew this was going to happen. I'm not home all day, so we might
Gotcha.
have to, I might have to move and let them play out here if that's okay.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay. Um, so yeah, I got into life coaching just as a add-on to my personal training because I felt like it was really beneficial to get people, um, you know, a lot of the time when I'm working out with somebody or I'm in the gym with someone or we're
Hmm.
talking about their fitness, it's at their most vulnerable. They don't feel good. They're not coming from a place of being confident in themselves. And so a lot of times there's a lot underneath that, you know,
Hmm.
how they got to be, you know, where they're at and uncomfortable has a lot more to do with just not working out and not eating right. It could be issues going on in their life, it could
Hmm.
be job loss, um, it could be just a multitude of things. And so I was finding as I'm working out with people, they're telling me that their life story, and it was so much more helpful to be able to have the tools in order to be trauma informed and in order to understand, how to ask the questions to make them kind of dig a little bit deeper and start to
Hmm.
uncover, what is it that's holding you back for real. Um, and so that's kind of the avenue that I started to go.
No, it's definitely interesting. And I feel like a lot of people, even me especially, I started working out just because like physical, I was like, oh, I'm skinny. I don't like the way I look. I want
Hmm.
to get bigger. And then throughout the years of doing it, I'm probably 10 years into like my fitness journey, I would say. I've really started to focus more on like the mental side of it rather than
Hmm.
like all the physical. Because physical, people work out and put the effort in, you're gonna get you're probably gonna get shit like physical changes and stuff, but it's like
Yeah.
the mental benefits I get from it, from like, doing the workouts, pushing myself, always showing up for myself, and then
Yeah.
the mental health from it is just amazing.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said too about building that resiliency and doing shit that you don't want to do, really.
Hmm.
Because nobody wants to work out every day. Nobody.
Oh, definitely.
I've been doing this for so long. I do not want to work out most of the days,
Hmm.
and that's kind of why I chuckle when people kind of look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky." And I'm thinking to myself, if you only knew the amount of luck it took, it doesn't take any luck at all. Like it is all a decision that we're making in order to show up for ourselves every single day. And that is, um, the way that I coach
Hmm.
is trying to um, change the behavior, or help change the behavior of my clients to make better decisions every single day to show up for themselves, because that is, really what they're missing at the end of the day. It's, they're kind of betraying themselves by saying, "Hey, I'm going to make this change," and then not doing it. And then they're
Hmm.
reinforcing this bad behavior of, not ever following through with what they say they're going to do. And not only that, but I see, how many times do you see people say, "Oh, bro, I'm going to go to the gym with you. Like, let's work out together."
Hmm.
And how many
Yeah.
times do they say that to you? How many times do they actually show up?
Oh, never. I mean, I'm a morning workout person, so that doesn't help their case because I'll
Right.
be up at 6 a.m. at the gym, and they're like, oh, no shot, I'm going that early.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And it's just like, I always hear people, "I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that,
Hmm.
I'm gonna do this diet, I'm gonna go keto," which is a whole nother thing we could go off on. But,
Hmm.
it's like 95% of our decision making and our behavior is subconscious. So how are you gonna change that? If that is how your brain is wired to continue to make these decisions over and over again, you're never gonna get anywhere. And so it has to come from understanding where the behavior is that's holding you back, and then gradually making a small change in order to kind of get to the place where you want to be. I didn't just wake up one day and say, "I'm going to go to the gym every single day and I'm going to eat well and I'm just going to live a fit life."
Hmm.
you know
It
it
happens over
didn't.
time. It's not.
Yeah, it exactly. Exactly. And so that's kind of where learning about all of this stuff has come in handy for me, because I've had clients that never stepped foot in a gym in their entire life.
Hmm.
They're terrified. And so day one of training, I meet them in the parking lot. I don't even let them walk into the gym without me.
Hmm.
And because that is sometimes a barrier for people. It's
It is.
scary. They feel like people are looking at them, even though we know nobody cares what the heck you're doing.
No, not at
you know,
all.
when
I
I'm in
like
the
seeing
gym,
new people in the gym that are like, especially
yeah,
if they're like, you can tell they're actually just trying to better themselves. I always love seeing that because that
yeah,
motivates probably the same like with you. It motivates me seeing
yeah,
someone at that starting point because I know what it was like when I went to the gym for the first time and started.
yeah.
I think I went to the gym, I got buried under the bar, like 45-pound bench press. I was just stuck there. I'm like, oh, this is terrible.
Right, right. And you're probably worried about people looking at you and like judging you, but in reality, they're just
Mm,
like, heck yeah, get it. But they don't, people like that, they don't see it that way. And so my job as a coach is to gradually introduce them to things that are uncomfortable and reinforce that belief in their brain.
mm,
So, hey, day one, I'm meeting you in the parking lot. We'll walk in together and we'll pick a spot in the gym where there is nobody else and that you feel like no one else is watching you. I don't care if I have to build a workout with two sets of dumbbells and that's it and we're in the corner.
mhm.
That's what we're doing day one. If as long as they're comfortable,
Yeah.
is my only goal, to get a workout and to be comfortable. And then, gradually over time, I'm taking them to, the Smith machine, and I'm taking them to, different pieces of equipment where they're learning something new, they're learning that they can do it, and they're also kind of letting themselves be seen a little bit more in the gym. I'm thinking of two clients specifically that I've had in the past. Both of them never touched a weight a day in their life.
Mhm.
Both really wanted some body recomp, which, I includes lifting weights,
Mhm.
Um, after it was all said and done, I probably worked with them both for 6 or maybe more months. They're in the gym by themselves. They're getting another gym membership. They're going to Planet Fitness on their lunch break without me, and then they're meeting me at the gym later on. I
That's
have
awesome.
one client I'm thinking of specifically. She got obsessed. Like, it was so amazing to watch her go from somebody that, was scared to walk in the gym, that's never touched a weight a day in her life, and then now she's back squatting in a gym without
Mm,
me. That's crazy.
that's amazing.
Um, so that is, to see them like transform their life and to feel way more confident, not just the way that they look, but to know that they can do hard things. They can
Mhm.
do hard things, and then that bleeds into other areas of life as well.
Oh, for sure. That like when you're doing something tough like that, like working out or pushing yourself in the gym, and then you get a task at work or maybe like issue in a relationship or something like that, you can just apply that discipline from the gym into anything. But like
Exactly.
with the life coaching, like because that's a pretty big task, I would say, is like helping people
Mhm.
with like all aspects of life. How long did it take you when you started doing that to get like really comfortable in your role of like being that life
Yeah,
coach?
I would say I'm still not comfortable because, to be honest, you never know what somebody is going to toss at you. But I
Hmm.
think the more you understand coaching, it's just really listening. It's all about listening, and it's digging into what that person is actually saying, and continuously taking the perspective outward. And so if I can take the problem that they're having and I can kind of ask questions about it and dig into it a little bit and just say, okay, here's what I'm hearing you say. Is that correct?
Hmm.
Sometimes people just, they don't even understand what it's like to be listened to and to be heard. And once they're saying it out loud, sometimes they work it out for themselves. But really, I'm not here to solve problems. I'm just here
Hmm.
to kind of hold your hand through your problems. And so, that's kind of where it's it's scary in a way because it feels like a lot of responsibility, but then
Hmm.
when you really think about it and you do it often enough, it's like we're just having a conversation. I'm just kind of reiterating to you what you're saying to me, and I'm letting you look at your life from a bigger lens.
Hmm.
And in school we had to do a ton of peer sessions. So, I was doing sessions with people, one of them was a big retired like New York lawyer.
Hmm.
and I'm thinking to myself, what could I possibly have that can help this guy?
Yeah.
you know? And we weren't really supposed to come with real problems, but we all ended up coming with real problems, like pretending it was a real session.
Hmm.
And he was like, wow, I got so much out of this. And to be honest, the only thing I did was listen and kind of reiterate what he was saying back to me, back to him,
Hmm.
and saying, hey, do you think, this problem that you were having over here and now you're having a similar problem? Do you think there's a common denominator here? And he was like, huh, yeah.
Hmm.
you know, I think you're right. So it's not really about having the confidence that you can fix the problems of the world or
Hmm.
give the right advice, because it's not really what it's about. It's just kind of about knowing that you have somebody in your corner to walk through the issues with. And then also, giving good nuggets of wisdom as far as knowing, how to change your mindset and how to kind of reframe. So, coaching is a lot about reframing.
Hmm.
Someone will say something and it's like, well, how can we reframe that so it aligns with what your goals are? And it makes them think, and it's great. It's really fun. It's really rewarding. It's something that, I want to do more often, but I do it now in my day-to-day life and my job, and I just kind of apply it to real world instead of taking
Hmm.
on clients.
No, that's awesome. And is that where you like kind of developed your passion for like you mentioned you're into like neuroscience and all that right now?
hmm Oh my gosh. Yeah. So that has been a passion for a long time. I think I've always been like a psychology nerd a little bit.
Hmm.
But when I started this school, well, I guess it was before that too. I really think I got so obsessed with it because I was seeing so much progress in my own life, and I wanted to understand how it was happening, because
Hmm.
if I'm coaching, I wanted to be able to explain how I got from point A to point B. What is it that I'm doing in my life that is allowing me to achieve these outcomes without being, succumbing to negative thoughts or depression, anxiety, all of these things. I went through so much so young. I mean, we could have a whole nother podcast on all the terrible things that I've been through, but I never allowed it to get me down. I never decided to give up. I never once thought that that was a possibility. And
Hmm.
so, what is it that I know how to do, and how do I help other people do that? And that is really just retraining your brain to reframe. And instead of sitting in misery and poor me and victim mentality is the biggest, like that is
Hmm.
the killer. It will kill you.
Oh, for sure.
That it's just, you
Sitting
hear
around
people.
feeling like sorry for yourself is
Yeah.
never gonna make anything better. You kind of gotta, I mean, even though that toughness, I think, is a big thing of mental health, being able to be resilient through your struggles and like, listen, it does suck right now, but I got to keep pushing. And it gives
hmm
you a sense of like accomplishment when you start like feeling better again.
Yeah, and mental health is a real thing, and all that's a real thing. I just think, there's a way around it.
Hmm.
There has to be, because there are people that truly go through the most horrific things, and they are the most resilient, badass, nice, kind people that you will ever meet. Now, there are also people that go the other way.
Hmm.
Um, but like you said, developing that resilience is exactly, my point.
Hmm.
You really have to make the decision on how am I going to move forward? Am I going to let this ruin my life, or am I going to use it as fuel for something better? And so that's what I've always tried to do. And so I think learning scientifically what's going on and creating, and I'm not going to get all sciencey because
Yeah.
it could be a whole new thing.
Hmm.
But developing new neural pathways. So if you think of like how your brain fires, it's going to go, like I said, 95% of your subconscious, what you're used to thinking. So
Hmm.
it's going to go straight to the negative every single time. And so in rewiring your brain, you really have to learn a different path to take on how to get to that positivity. And that's like the dumbed down version of what's going
Hmm.
on. But when I learned that, I'm like, okay, I got to get straight to the good stuff. And that is reframing. It's like when something really bad happens, okay, no matter what you believe in, you can say, okay, this is happening for me, not to me.
Hmm.
And when you look at it that way, it's really hard to not look at everything, even the horrible stuff that goes on, as a blessing.
That's amazing. I mean, I like everything that you said there. And then you say you bring all this into what you do for work now. What do you what do you do now for work?
Yeah, so I run a fitness studio called Body Fit Training, or BFT. So it's actually a brand of Exponential. So we own like Pure Bar, Cycle Bar, Row House,
Hmm.
Rumble, what else? Club Pilates, Yoga Six. So all those studios Exponential owns. This is a pretty new concept in the United States. We only have like 25-ish studios open across the country.
Okay.
We're actually not open yet. We're in pre-sale, so we're still building out the studio. Um,
Gotcha.
so it's more along the lines of group strength training. So if you've ever seen like an F45
Yep.
or something like that, which I know those are blowing up everywhere. But BFT is similar in a way, but it's a longer workout. 45 minutes is not enough to work out.
Hmm.
I'm just gonna call it out. I mean, it's good for a HIIT class, but not if you're strength training.
Hmm.
And so we have the Olympic plates. We have 14 different styles of classes, so it's really exciting. They actually just opened one in Hoboken. So
Okay.
if you're ever up that way, check it out.
Yeah, definitely. I'll float up there eventually in the off
Yeah,
season now that like the shore is kind of dead. But
right, right,
no, I
right. But
think
yeah,
group training has gotten huge now. I feel like when I started, it wasn't as big. There was kind of like Jersey Strong had their like group workouts, but I think groups training for people that aren't used to the gym yet, I think that's a great thing to do because
yeah.
that can help build that comfort that you were speaking of
Hmm.
because you have a group there going with you and you can form that like relationship, that bond that, oh, you guys are we're always here like on Mondays at 5:30 for the class, and you build that friendship and then you're all on that journey together.
100%. And I will say, since COVID, it's like way, way more popular
Hmm.
because people are still working from home. Everybody, I mean, so many people in Tampa, it's crazy, have remote jobs. I really don't know many people that work from the office. It's
Hmm.
wild, even though this is a place of vacation and there's people out all the time. I see people randomly in the bar during the day, like on their work computer, just hanging out, drinking by the beach, working.
Hmm.
That's what people do here. And so they're bored and they're lonely, and having that camaraderie in the studio is just, it's so refreshing because it's very, very family, like a family feel. My old studio when I was living in Ohio, AKT, it was same Exponential, but it was geared towards women, so it
Hmm.
was I had all female members, but it was just the most like uplifting. Everybody was awesome. They're all there to work. It's all age ranges of people. So people from, their late teens to late 60s, when you have
Hmm.
all these women in the same place, just all trying to better themselves, and just to learn everyone's story. And it was just the most incredible experience of my whole life. And I knew I had to continue with that. Um, we closed in February, and I just saw people crumble from not having that community anymore.
Hmm.
And so that's why, I decided to stay in group fitness, and because it was so rewarding in that way.
That's amazing. Now, did you say it closed in February of last year or like for COVID? It closed.
It closed in February of last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Gotcha.
Yep.
And
So the remnants of COVID for sure.
mhm. Now, what did you personally do over COVID? I imagine you still tried to figure out a way to work out, right?
Oh yeah. I worked out. I had a garage gym. So I
Hmm.
did that. And then my friends back in Ohio, they actually owned a gym. So we we kind of, worked out
Gotcha.
still.
You were
Uh,
able to go in there.
we were cleaning,
Hmm.
we were cleaning the gym.
Yeah, no,
Um,
during COVID, I was working out in my garage and everything, and then all of a sudden COVID ended, and then all the people I know that own gyms, they were like, "Oh, you should just came worked out here." I was like,
they're like,
"Guys,
well,
yeah." I'm like, no one told me this during the time I needed to know.
oh my God. You're like, well, that would have been nice to know as I was, making do with my garage gym.
Yeah, exactly. But I had so much fun because my friend, one of my best friends, he lived up the street from me. He was really into working out and everything.
Yeah.
And I just texted him like, "Hey, dude, I just bought like a power rack and a bunch of stuff for my garage." And he worked at Dick's Sporting Goods at the time. He's like,
Mm,
"Oh, dude, I'm gonna buy you a set of Bowflex dumbbells. Can we just work out together like throughout this thing?"
yeah.
And we thought it was gonna be like 2 weeks, turned into whatever, like what, 9 months, I
A year,
think. Yeah,
a
it
year.
was
Yeah.
like
Almost
I
a
think
year.
9 months in Jersey or something. And that it was just so much fun because each day we look forward to like just getting in the garage working out. Summer we were
Yeah.
just sweating. I think it was cold in Jersey when it first started. We were both just like bundled up in the garage trying to stay warm and working
Hmm.
out.
Yep. I did exactly the same thing. When I wasn't, before we went, we knew, it was okay to go back in the gym.
Mhm.
It was a little, I mean, in Ohio, I think we ended before you guys. You guys went a really long time with things
I think
locked
Jersey
down.
went a long time. I think we were
Yeah.
probably one of the longer states besides like New York and California, I would think.
Yeah, because I remember thinking, thank God I don't live there anymore.
Hmm.
'Cause you guys were really locked down. But yeah, I was doing the same thing in the garage. My best friend lived across the street, so she'd pop over, we'd work out in the garage together,
Hmm.
and it was a blast. We did a lot of drinking. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. Like, who
That
didn't?
was the summer I'm not a big drinker at all.
Yeah.
Um personally, but I think COVID summer was by far the most I drank in the summer.
Me too.
Like
That's what I mean.
it was
What else
just
was there to
there
do?
was nothing. It was like me, I was lucky because I had I had the boat, so there was no regulation on the water. So we could like have a bunch of people out on the water. We would have a great day and then just go back home and just drink more at the like the beach house.
Right, right. What else is there to do? And I felt bad about it, obviously. I didn't want to be doing that, but it's like,
I
at
felt
what point,
yeah,
can it just made time go by faster. I think I was doing power hours by myself at one point.
yeah, no,
Like,
I was there was nothing to do because I was and then that was like the time like they started reporting that like you couldn't really get it when you were outside. The sunlight was like helpful for it. I'm like, guys, why don't like what are we doing sitting inside? Why don't we just go and like see what happens? Like,
right, right,
and I think
exactly.
that summer the water was like the craziest I've ever seen it. Like the amount of boats out and everything because no one had anything to do around here at
Right.
least.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, I do miss Jersey very much sometimes.
How long did you live in New Jersey?
So I was there, let's see, 2016 through 2019. So
Okay.
like 3 years, 3.5 years. Yeah.
And where else have you lived? You said you grew up in Ohio and now you're in Tampa
So I grew up actually, I'm from Pittsburgh.
or Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh.
Yep. So from Pittsburgh, I moved to New Jersey in 2016.
Hmm.
And then from Jersey, I moved to Cincinnati. And then I just moved to Tampa in July.
Okay. How do you like Tampa so far?
I love it. Actually, well, I live in St. Pete, so I don't live in Tampa, but I'm like 18 minutes from Tampa, like downtown Tampa.
Okay.
Um, so I mean, it's freaking awesome. It's so great.
I mean, yeah, probably living everywhere else, you had winters and everything. It was probably freezing. I've never been to
Hmm.
Pittsburgh or Ohio. Um,
Freezing, cold,
I
horrible.
can imagine everything.
Yeah.
I can't stand the cold. It's getting cold in Jersey right now, and it's like
Yep.
absolutely miserable.
Yep. And it was cold for me today and it was like 78 degrees.
Yeah, we were like 20. I think I woke up, it was like 20 degrees outside.
Yeah, it's definitely for me. I knew, I always wanted to be in Florida. Living in Jersey gave me a good taste of like living by the beach. So I lived in
Hmm.
Red Bank.
Okay.
So I just popped over to Seabright. It was like, 8 minutes or whatever
Hmm.
from Red Bank. So um but we still had winter and it was still cold. So, I got the summer on the shore, but then, we still had the seasons, which was a nice thing. I absolutely love fall. So
Hmm.
I did love that. But honestly, I knew I wanted to be in Florida. The sun is always, where I want to be by the ocean. And I had the opportunity this year, and I just was like, I am going.
Hmm.
I'm in my 30s. Life is way too freaking short. And now it's like I have sunshine every day. My work break, I can go lay out at the pool. It's the best. It's the best. I was at the beach this weekend. I mean,
Hmm.
it's so great.
And when's your studio down there opening?
So we are opening at the end of January. So I have until January to be remote, which is kind of nice.
Okay,
So
and then you're going to be running the studio, and you're probably going to be
mhm.
coaching there as well.
So I don't know yet about the coaching. We just hired two full-time coaches. We hired the
Hmm.
head coach and then a full-time coach, and actually a part-time coach. So we have quite a bit of coaches that have, some really good backgrounds, and I really trust them with that. I'm running the business. And so, that's scheduling, that's classes, that's
Hmm.
memberships, that's selling memberships, that's booking prospects, getting calling new people, getting leads on the phone, things like that. Training my sales staff. So
Hmm.
really, I like to really have a good handle on the business side of things and let the coaches coach. I think it's a good separation. Even though I would love to coach, I still, um, you know, running the studio is still just as fulfilling. I get to know the members
Hmm.
and can kind of be, behind the scenes a little bit.
Oh, so have you always had a passion for business? Because it sounds like you're really looking forward to like kind of taking this on and running this whole
Oh yeah.
operation.
Yeah, I that's my degree is in business management.
Okay.
I am so entrepreneurial. I always have an idea. I'm always trying to do something.
Hmm.
I'm always trying to find the next thing to get myself into. Definitely in the mode in life right now where I am, looking for passive income. Like I'm always about the business. And so I think, where this isn't my studio, I'm running the studio for the owners.
Hmm.
It feels like mine because I have full control over that, and I'm making the phone calls every day. I'm doing the outreach, I'm setting up events. I take it very personally when things don't go well. So
Hmm.
I do treat it as my own, and I do really, actually, I never thought I would, but I do love the business aspect of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, business is, I've also been very passionate about it, and then passive income. That's what I'm trying to do right now because I'm
Hmm.
starting my own fitness, nutrition, like the whole wellness coaching, and then started a
Yeah,
podcast. That was
on a
cool.
whim.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
heck
literally was
yeah.
just I was sitting at work, and I'm like, I moved out on my own for the first time. I had moved out before. I had a roommate, and that was fun. Decided it was time to kind of do it on my own. And I'm like, oh, but I don't really have that many hobbies outside of like working out. And I'm like, I need something that's gonna like pass my time and kind of be fun. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna start a podcast. And I went on the internet and I bought the podcasting equipment before I knew anything about like starting a podcast.
That's the way to do it. And I will say, pull the trigger. And this is another little tidbit of wisdom for people. Do it
Hmm.
before you're ready. Just do it because you'll never
Yep.
do it and you'll never be ready. So just do it. That's my best friend from back home in Ohio, and I started a podcast. We have all these episodes written out. We have the name, like we're working on a
Hmm.
logo, and it's like we've waited to. Both of us have crazy stuff going on in life, so we haven't had a chance. And now that we're not in the same state, it's a little harder.
Hmm.
But at one point, we were both like we were having weekly meetings to plan episodes out, and I'm like, why are we doing this? Let's just do it.
Yeah, no, that's what I feel like I had a, a couple episodes maybe I tried to plan out a little bit, or I was going to, and then I felt like if I plan something, especially like just supposed to be a conversation. I
Yeah.
felt like I was too focused on what I wanted to get out of the conversation that I
Hmm.
wasn't listening right, and I was like kind of losing track of like everything going on.
It's like it kind of makes you black out a little bit when
Hmm.
you plan too much. It's like then you're not even listening to the person or asking the right question. It's just now you're so focused on the desired outcome of the episode that you lose all the good stuff in
Exactly.
between. Yeah, we were having that issue too. And like I told her, I think we're just ready to just pull the trigger, and just sit down and see where it goes.
Especially if it's
So
just
yeah,
you and your best friend kind of talk, if you're talking, or I don't know what it's going to be about or anything, but
yeah,
I feel like if you just have that friendship and then act like there's not a mic or a camera there, that's the best way to
yeah,
do it. Because that's how I try to think of it. And like my guests have come on, they've all told me they're nervous because it's like their first podcast.
yeah.
I'm like, guys, it's basically my first podcast too. Like we're just gonna
Right,
get
right.
like we're just gonna get after
Exactly.
it.
Yeah, I will say my first podcast that I was on, I was so nervous because
Hmm.
I was just worried about a scripted answer, and you just don't know. And so it definitely made me super nervous. I felt like I blacked out during the episode, honestly. I
Hmm.
I honestly didn't remember anything that I said, to the point where I was like, I'm never listening to this ever. I don't care. I'm never listening to it. So
I've
my
listened to like two of my episodes, I think.
yeah, yeah. And my therapist, she was like, I know, I really think you should listen to it. Like it was really good. So she
Hmm.
made me listen to it. And I was like, wow, that was really insightful, Lianne.
Yeah, no,
So you just never know what's going to come out of it. So,
exactly. My thing in the past, like I've always had ideas and stuff too, and I kind of always analyze it. And then the saying is like paralysis by analysis. It's just like thinking, and then
100%.
all of a sudden, if you're thinking for too long, all the thoughts after a while are just going to become negative. It's like, oh, this could happen, that could happen. It just
Exactly.
if you dive into it and go, I mean, I don't give myself any time to think of what might go
Right.
wrong.
Well, and when you think too much, you start to feed into that fear that we all have of,
Hmm.
what's underneath. Well, what if people don't like it? Well, what if I sound stupid? What if I say something wrong?
Hmm.
And so the more you think about it, the more that fear starts to take over. And so it's right. You're right. Just don't think about it. Just do it. And I look at it this way too. There's so many people out there that have, and I'm sorry to these people, but the dumbest podcast. It's
Hmm.
like if they can do it, I can do it, or you can do it.
Exactly.
And everybody brings a unique perspective, and not no two things are the same. So stop trying to copy other people, because then it's not genuine and it's not coming from you.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I just want to keep it original. I'm just myself. We can talk about welcome anyone on, talk about anything, just see what
No.
happens.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. It definitely is a different format than I've ever seen, and I think it works.
Yeah, I think it's I watch Joe Rogan all the time and he is pretty all over the
Yeah,
map. So I was kind of like,
yeah,
oh, you know what? I'm just gonna do this. Just talk to
exactly.
people about anything and see what I can get out of it and what other people can get. Because what I like is like if I do it that way, each episode isn't for everyone.
Everyone.
Like I'm gonna attract a different crowd with each episode, and then maybe I'll pick up a few listeners here and there. I'm not really worried about that. It's just like giving everyone has a story to tell. I just want to have people have a platform because, like me, I'm not someone that anyone was really going to invite on a podcast. But
Oh,
well, I mean, maybe eventually. But
maybe.
yeah, everyone
That was,
like when I ask people to come on, they're like, "Oh, this is so cool! I never would think I could be on a podcast," and they're like so
yeah.
excited, and that's like a very fulfilling feeling to
Yeah.
me, like giving people a platform, and then they hit me up after, like thanking me, saying how much fun they had.
Yeah, it's truly awesome, and there's something to be said about storytelling. And it's true. It opens up. I mean, podcasts were really my gateway into like self-help.
Hmm.
Whenever I was living in Jersey and I felt very lost in the world. And I was driving from, oh gosh, Red Bank or Eatontown and all the way up to Edison some days.
Hmm.
That's a long way for those who don't know. That's like a 2-hour drive there and back. And then you take Jersey traffic on top of that, and it's even
Yep.
longer. And so when you have nothing to do in the car for that long, I wanted to be productive with my time. And so I started listening to podcasts. And eventually, what I would do is, I would find a podcast that I liked, and then they would have a guest on. And then that guest, I would kind of dive into their work.
Hmm.
And then, they would have a podcast, and I would listen to guests on their podcast. And then I would read books that they would recommend. So it was kind of like this web of knowledge that I was getting from all these different people's stories. And it kind of shaped really where I'm at today. So podcasting is so near and dear to my heart that it's like I love that you're giving that back to people. And then also that's totally something I want to do eventually. Because I mean, we all have so much life to share,
Hmm.
but it gives people a good perspective that their perspective is not the only one. And
Exactly. That's important to me.
mhm. And the thing about coaching and, coaching lifestyle, wellness or otherwise,
Hmm.
the thing that lights me up is the light bulb moment for someone. Like when you say something that hits them and they're like, huh, never thought of it that way. Or, wow, I never thought of that. And then their perspective shifts. That to me is just, it's everything. And it's so fulfilling. And so that's why I do what I do.
Hmm. No, that's awesome. And I think we can probably wrap it up here for episode. I think I'm on episode 10. Kind of lose track of
Nice.
where I'm at. But
10.
thank you for coming on. And where can everyone find you on like social media and stuff?
Yeah, so my handle on Instagram is my first and last name. It's Lianne Livelsburger, and I know it's a terribly long last name. I won't have it for forever, so that'll change. But it's just something, it's a pain in the butt to change your last name, back.
Hmm.
So but yeah, it's just my first and last name, which you can put that wherever you put it, show notes. And then I'm not really on any other social media platform. Facebook is kind of for family. So
Hmm.
my Instagram right now is not super geared towards coaching. It's just kind of my life at the moment, but you can definitely reach me there. And then my studio is BFT_Tampa. So we'll always welcome some new people there.
Sounds good. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, and I really enjoyed this episode. And I guess you're welcome back anytime.
Thanks. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
no problem.